G'day friends, and welcome to another one of my videos. Today we are going old school. We are going to try and shoot a panorama using the old-fashioned method. So if you want to see how that turns out, well then stick around. And welcome back. Now today I'm going to give you 3 tips that should help you put together a beautiful, clear and sharp panorama that you could use anything from a desktop to print it large and put it on your wall. So the first tip we're going to talk about is going to be about your equipment. Number 2 is going to be all about your location, and the third tip is going to be about the lighting. So let's discuss these right now. Now regarding equipment, you may ask, Fernando, why should I buy more equipment given the fact that most of us carry some type of device that can actually do panoramas? In my pocket I've got 3 of them already. Osmo Pocket, I've also got the Theta, which can take a picture and then you can actually turn it into a panorama. And last but not least, the probably device is most common for panoramas, which is your phone. But we are going to talk about something totally different because these devices all have limited quality. So when we want to talk about panoramas, we're talking about high resolution panoramas. We're not talking about the ones you get from these mobile devices. Now the equipment that I'm talking about, you probably already have in your kit. So first of all is a camera, and it can be anything from a pocket camera all the way to a DSLR, as long as it's got a thread or something to mount it. Now the second bit is you need to have yourself a tripod. So most of you should already have that anyway. So camera and tripod. Now the other things that you should take into consideration, and I think it's a must to get a really clear and accurate panorama, is this thing called a pano head or panorama head, which come in so many different shapes and sizes and can be purchased from reputable brands all the way to cheap little Chinese brands like this one. Now the one that I got, obviously it's a very inexpensive one, but it does the trick just fine. So why is a pano head so important? In order for the panorama to look as accurate as possible and for the stitching that we're going to do in post-production to come out nice and accurate, the panorama head allows us to overcome an issue called parallax. Now, parallax is when you're taking multiple shots, and as you're turning your camera around, the camera is getting a different aspect. Now what the pano head does is it allows you to actually aim your lens and rotate it in the same axis. So that what it means is that it actually never leaves that center point, and the camera takes nice and straight aligned photographs. So this is a bit of a must. Now the second point to consider is the location. Obviously you want a beautiful looking panorama, not a daggy old one that no one's really going to appreciate. So I've come to this location, for example, to take a beautiful panorama of the Sydney cityscape. Everything from the buildings in the back all the way through the Opera House and to the Harbour Bridge. So that's going to be my focus point. So the perspective is really important because obviously it's going to give you that vantage point. Now here along the harbour there are many good locations, but one of the things that I want to do is take different vantage points. So I have a flat one right next to the bay here, and then I've got another location which is a little bit elevated that's going to give me a different look and feel to the actual panorama. The third and final tip has to be the lighting. Obviously, in order to have a beautifully illuminated photograph, pano, you need to make sure that you capture the moment at the right time of day, and sometimes this can make or break a panorama. Obviously the other thing, it's tricky because you are taking multiple shots and then putting them together, and so that means in post, if you have a varying light, it's going to make your post editing a lot more difficult. So I've discovered over the years of taking photos of the cityscape and the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge that the best time of the day to take the photo is at sunrise, or when the sun's coming up. You're going to get all of the buildings illuminated, as well as the bridge and the Opera House, because they are actually facing east. But then as the sun sets, it's way too late because you get too much backlight and it just turns out to be all silhouettes. So lighting is the next most important tip. So now we're going to head up and get yourselves set up and see what we can come up with on this particular day and get away from all these noisy joggers. What a fantastic day to be out taking these shots. I am blessed with the location and the daylight. I do want to highlight some very important points to consider when taking the pictures. Firstly, make sure that you're shooting in RAW if possible. That will help with the color grading in post-production. Secondly, if you're using a filter such as a circular polarizing filter, be aware that this can change the look from picture to picture. So I recommend that if you're just beginning with panoramas and stitching photos, then you try taking the pictures without a filter first. Thirdly, make sure that you level your tripod and pano head. This will also make the stitching process easier and will save you the trouble of correcting the images in post. And last but not least, make sure that you have plenty of overlap between one photo and the next. This will allow the AI in Photoshop or Lightroom to be more successful in the stitching process. When there isn't enough overlap, Photoshop and Lightroom tend to bug out. In the next video, I will show you how to correct and stitch panoramas in Lightroom and Photoshop, and we will also use the photos to create a cylindrical 360 panorama. And there you have it, friends, a panorama in 3 easy steps. I hope you found that enjoyable and informative. I haven't done one of these in quite some time, and I had fun too, except for the joggers going past every 5 seconds, huffing and puffing. So give me a like if you like the video, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, ciao for now.